Integrating on-premise DNS with Azure Virtual Networks will allow you to extend DNS resolution between your on-premises and Azure environments. This integration is often useful if your organization has custom DNS requirements, like resolving internal domain names or needing control over DNS settings. Instead of relying on Azure's built-in DNS service, you can specify a custom DNS server, such as a DNS server running on-premises or in a private cloud. This external DNS server could be any DNS solution you use, like a bind on Linux or Active Directory DNS. How do you set up the custom DNS? You configure the VNet with the IP address of your custom DNS server. Azure provides you that capability to do the customization. This tells Azure to use the specified DNS servers for name resolution rather than Azure's default DNS. You can still use Azure private DNS zones for auto registration of internal resources while forwarding specific queries to your custom DNS server for resolution outside the VNet. Forwarding in DNS allows one DNS server to pass on a query to another DNS server, particularly when the original server cannot resolve it. This helps bridge the DNS capabilities between on-premises and Azure. There are two ways that you forward to Azure, such as standard forwarding and conditional forwarding. Standard forwarding specifies another DNS server, often the authoritative server for a specific zone, to handle any queries that the initial DNS server can't resolve. And conditional forwarding directs query for specific domain names to designated DNS servers. For instance, queries for company.internal could be sent to a specific DNS server while other queries are handled normally. If your DNS server is located outside of Azure, such as on-premises, it won't be able to directly query Azure DNS at 168.63.129.16, which is an internal Azure IP that's not accessible externally. In this case, you can set up a DNS forwarder inside the VNet, or you can deploy a DNS resolver within your Azure VNet as well. For chaining DNS forwarding, you can configure your on-premise DNS to forward queries to the DNS resolver inside the VNet. The DNS resolver in turn forwards queries to Azure DNS at 168.63.129.16 for internal Azure name resolution. When you do hybrid, you have to ensure that your DNS solutions are implemented correctly. I noticed that proper DNS setup are the biggest miss in most of the configuration and highly overlooked because of the missing understanding with network and Azure engineers. This layered DNS forwarding will enable seamless integration between Azure and on-premise environments while ensuring all DNS queries can be resolved accurately.